This is a big deal, Warren. I mean, this is the biggest, most comprehensive tariff that I've ever seen, in my 15 or 16 years here in the industry. Placed in service by December 31st, 2027, you get the tax credit. Placed in service January 1st, 2028, no tax credit. And we're starting to see costs increase of about 10 to 20 cents per watt for a lot of those ground mounts, particularly larger ground mounts.
Welcome to the Solar Loop, where we break down the biggest updates in the solar energy world and what that really means for you as a homeowner or business owner. If you want clear, reliable solar information, subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any future episodes. Welcome to the Solar Loop. This is our August 2026 edition, and we have three exciting topics to talk about. First, we're going to talk about the December 31st deadline for the federal tax credit, the ITC. We'll talk briefly about some additional challenges with ground mounts and additional costs associated with ground mount solar arrays. And then finally, we'll dig into the 232 tariffs on solar modules, which are coming on December 4th. So welcome, Larry.
Thanks, Warren.
So Larry, let's talk about this December 31st deadline of next year and what potential customers need to know and why they need to act now if they want to secure the tax credit.
Yeah, so this deadline was put in place by the One Big Beautiful Bill, which was signed about a year ago, a little over a year ago now. And when it was signed, December of 2027 looked like a long way off. But it's quickly coming up. So there were two options. There was safe harbor by July 4th of this year, which is already passed. So that option is gone. So the last option is to have the project placed in service by December 31st, 2027 to get the tax credit. Placed in service by December 31st, 2027, you get the tax credit. Placed in service January 1st, 2028, no tax credit. So that's kind of a big difference that we're focused on right now.
Sure. And that can be 30 or 40% of the cost of the project.
Right. Yep. It's a big deal. So what we're telling people is obviously get in sooner rather than later for a couple of reasons. One is installer capacity. So our 2027 is already getting filled up. And I don't say that just to scare people, but it's the reality. When you have a deadline like this, the people that plan ahead are the ones that will get the capacity and get at least more of the guarantee their project gets installed. The other issue we're starting to face a little bit of is supply chain. We mitigated that pretty well with the relationships that we have. One of the things that could be a hiccup is the tariffs, which we'll talk about in a bit. That could be some, bring up some challenges with module supply. And then the final thing, another big aspect of this is project development timelines. So the fact that there's a deadline means that all utilities are going to get a bunch of applications. Counties and townships will get a bunch of applications. It's probably going to take them longer to process those applications than typical, which is another big reason to get in sooner rather than later.
And larger projects take longer to develop. If this is a several hundred kW system that you're considering, the project development timeline is that runway is very short. You really need to move now because it probably takes close to a year or around a year to develop those projects, get all of the permits, get everything ordered, and give us enough time to get it installed.
Yeah, that's right. And that varies dramatically by state, by utility. So if you have a project that size in a specific state and a specific utility, reach out, because in some cases, maybe the development's 6 months. In some cases, it might be a year and a half. And if that's the case, you're ready out of time.
Yeah. I know we've had a lot of deadlines and a lot of sense of urgency for each deadline leading up to it. But unless there is a legislative change, this is truly the last shot of securing that 40% tax credit.
Right.
You get your project installed and operational by the end of next year. So really just three things to keep in mind there: that installers already have a backlog of projects to install and getting close to filling up their installation calendar. So if you wait, you might find yourself in a pickle trying to find an installer that has the ability to install that project. Number two, there could be supply chain disruptions and issues related to getting modules and hardware. And number three, it just takes a while to develop those projects. So if you're considering going solar and you want to take advantage of the 40% tax credit, this is for commercial and agricultural and nonprofits, you really need to move now. Reach out to us. We'd love to help you. All right, Larry, let's talk about ground mounts. In many areas, and this seems to be expanding to different areas all the time, ground mounts are becoming more challenging to get permitted, to get installed. There's cost increases associated with it. It's just becoming more challenging really across the board. Why is that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of reasons for that. One is because of all the solar farms that are trying to get in. And that's caused a lot of local pushback. And sometimes townships and counties take it, in my opinion, too far and say, okay, no ground mounts. Or they might say, yeah, you can have a ground mount, but it's got to be really small. And so that's one potential issue, is not being able to install it at all. The other thing that we're seeing is higher scrutiny around stormwater management, around NPDS, which has to do with runoff and stormwater as well, which is not super big of an issue for a solar array, because you have space between the solar arrays where water can go down. But townships and counties are starting to consider that impervious surface. We've seen it especially in PA, Maryland, and New York, especially in those three states. And we're starting to see costs increase of about 10 to 20 cents per watt for a lot of those ground mounts, particularly larger ground mounts.
And that's significant. So that's even another thing to consider with the deadline that we just talked about. If you're considering a ground mount, it's adding on even more complexity and cost to it right now. So definitely consider reaching out to us if you're considering a ground mount and you want to get the tax credit for that. All right. And finally, it seems like we don't have a whole lot of good news here to report on this month's Solar Loop, but let's talk about the 232 tariffs that are going into effect December 4th. What does this mean?
Yeah, so this is a big deal, Warren. I mean, this is the biggest, most comprehensive tariff that I've ever seen, in my 15 or 16 years here in the industry. There's been a lot of tariffs. Some of them have come and gone. Some of them have been on specific countries. What makes this one more significant, much more significant, is that it's on every country. It's on every import. So there's minimum import prices for wafers, cells, and modules. Just for example, modules have a 38-cent minimum import price, 38 cents per watt. Today, non-domestic modules that we get, including importing them, including shipping, including all those pieces, are cheaper than that 38 cents. That 38 cents is just the start. On top of that, you layer, your module manufacturer margin, you layer shipping, you layer storage, you layer cost of money, other fees and costs on top of that, plus an additional 15%. So the expectation overall that I'm hearing in the industry is that pricing for solar panels will increase between 10 and 15 cents per watt. And that's effective December 4th. Now, the trick with that is there's also checks and balances in place to keep companies from importing and dumping a large amount of solar panels, cells, and wafers before that deadline. A lot of our manufacturers are holding back. They're in a holding pattern right now. They're waiting to sort through everything with their legal teams, because there's stipulations around, hey, if I bring in, a lot of solar panels, but I don't have POs or orders to back that up, I'm dumping product, and I might be charged a tariff on that product, or that product might be denied entry. So there's some gray areas there with that. But companies that would typically import a lot of product before December 4th might be more limited. So that's another piece of it. And then finally, they're talking about heavy and strict enforcement of this tariff, trying to close any loopholes possible for this.
So the tariffs go into effect on December 4th. We're sitting here recording this today on August 13th. Between now and then, when do you think we're going to figure out exactly what that additional cost is going to look like?
It's a great question. Module manufacturers are telling us a couple of weeks. So it's uncertain. I would guess sometime around beginning, for sure, I would hope by mid-September, we get a lot more clarity around pricing. And a lot of that, Warren, really is just because this is so comprehensive and so complex that module manufacturers have to walk through it with their leadership teams, with their legal teams, to make sure that they're covering all their bases so that this doesn't hit them in a way that they don't expect.
We've known that these 232 tariffs have been coming for the last year and a half. We've been, as I'm sure all other installers out there, selling projects that will probably only have modules ordered after these tariffs go into effect. How does that impact customers? And what do you say to customers who say, if you kind of knew this was coming, why didn't you already price it in?
Yeah, so this has been really, really challenging to predict, especially the last, I would say, 10 months. There's been some intel in the industry that's been saying, hey, this could be imminent, but it could also be pretty far out there. or there's even a slight chance it doesn't happen at all. And when it comes, we don't know what the tariff is going to be. We don't know how high it's going to be, how significant it's going to be. And so really, Warren, the reason why us and probably a lot of other installers did not just buy a bunch of solar panels is because there was so much uncertainty. It was completely unknown as to when it's going to go into effect, what it's going to look like, or even if it's going to happen at all. And now it's probably too late to go back to those prices. My guess is that most installers have products secured for the next couple of months, and then probably projects beginning sometime early next year. They'll need to go back with change orders with higher costs in a lot of cases. And the goal really, I think there's a good goal behind it, and that is to increase domestic manufacturing. But it's just really going to make it challenging for existing customers who already have contracts signed under a specific module price expectation that now have to come back and say, well, here's a tariff that changes the calculation.
Right. And those that are safe harbored, we should be fine if you safe harbored with us and put more than the 5% down. But if you didn't, you might be in a pickle here.
Yeah, it's going to be challenging for a lot of projects.
Super. So just to recap on the December 31st deadline, if you're considering solar, now's the time to move. Reach out to us. We'd like to help you make it happen before we're completely booked up, particularly if that's a ground mount. You need to get going now. And then with these tariffs, they're coming on December 4th. And hopefully sometime between now and the next few weeks, we'll have some more insight into what that actually looks like in terms of costs. And hopefully we get to a point in the near future where domestic production is sufficient and it's not an issue anymore.
Yeah, I think that's coming, Warren. It's going to take some time, but I think it's coming.
Yeah, there'll be adequate supply here in the United States, which will bring down prices. Super. It's very helpful. Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, Warren.
Thanks for watching this episode of The Solar Loop. Hit the like button and subscribe so you can stay in the loop on solar news, policy changes, and industry trends. You can explore more videos here on the Solar Energy channel and visit paradiseenergy.com to learn more about solar energy and what it could look like for you.